Well, you have four major systems in the brain that are rendered dysfunctional. They're not working. So that's why you get this very long list of seemingly not related diseases, but they're all related to the processed foods. So you can kind of turn the whole medical system upside down and say, rather than trying to treat diabetes and depression or heart disease, just treat the processed food addiction and all of that stuff will clear up.
It's going to be a really neat behind the scenes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird.
Because something always magical happens.
Wait, what? Did you just make that up? Hey, it's Meredith for Real, the Curious Introvert. Listen each week as I talk with someone new. The topics are as ADD as I am, but they'll inspire you to stay curious and grow. Big thanks to our location sponsor, the UWF Historical Trust.
Hey, Curiositors, it's me, Meredith. If you loved part 1 with Dr. Joan Ifland, you are really going to love part 2. It not only motivated me to make good eating decisions, but it ignited my inner nerd with all the statistics. She really illustrated how processed food addiction is not just a metaphor or even a suggestion of strong language, to make a point. It's a literal physical addiction backed by science. And I was surprised to hear how what we've all accepted as side effects of the modern human experience, brain fog, hunger, IBS, are reversible just by making different food decisions. She talked about how our cognitive powers, emotional stability, and genuine connection with others can all reach new levels just with different food. Sounds simple, right? Well, be sure to listen to the end where she gives practical tips that you can implement today. And be sure to get the bonus resources by texting REAL, REAL, to 66866. Listen, love it, share it with a friend. Enjoy. Welcome back to part 2 on the truth about processed foods. In part 1, Dr. Joan Ifland defined processed foods and explained why they're so hard to quit. Thanks a lot, tobacco industry. And in case you missed it last week, she has a PhD in interdisciplinary studies with a specialization in addictive nutrition. And today, she's going to continue to share her research findings with us, specifically the what ifs. What if I keep eating the way that I do? What if I eat, quote unquote, better? And what is, quote unquote, better? She's Dr. Problem Solver, Dr. Joan Ifland. Good to have you back.
Thank you so much. I enjoy being here.
So now we know that processed foods are like the double agent bad guy in a James Bond movie. They're like the bad guy we can't quit. We keep dating them.
Yes, the abusive boyfriend, yeah.
So
or girlfriend.
Yes. So what happens if we quit? If we quit the processed foods, what will happen?
Well, it's pretty shocking. This is a big part of my own story. I eliminated sugars and flours from my diet in 1996. And I had lifelong health problems that just went away. It took a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but some of them started going away in a couple of days. So this is kind of the fun adventure part of this proposal, is to find out what is true about your own health conditions. Like we've been told, I had an employee once who had these really painful skin eruptions. And she said, well, I'm doomed. My mother had them and my grandmother. Well, she got on a clean food plan and they went away. So yes, her mother and her grandmother had them also in reaction to processed foods. So when people say depression runs in my family, I'm like, depression in response to processed foods. So it's just so much fun to try this out. You know what, you can just try it out. And yes, like we mentioned in the last episode, it's going to take 4 to 8 days to get through withdrawal. And you could have a headache or stomach ache, intense cravings. But people get those intense cravings and they think they're going to stay and they're just going to spend the rest of their lives with intense cravings, being unable to assuage them with the processed foods because they've gotten off of processed foods. That's not true. They will go away. It's a shocking thing. January 4th, 1996, I'm sitting at my dining room table, and for the first time in my life, I get to choose what I think about. I'm not compulsively thinking about food. So that is just that, plus the relief from brain fog and fatigue are some of the things that you get in that first 4 to 8 days. And it's thrilling. The bloating stops. I know I was eating a lot of food and I was still losing 2 pounds a week, but then the allergies went down.
That's 2 pounds a week is a lot.
It's a safe level.
Wow.
Yeah. So with no cravings, no hunger, no deprivation, just shocking how easy it was to lose that weight. But then the allergies went away and a lifelong sinus infection cleared up. But the thing that actually got me on this path 25 years ago, this month is my 25th anniversary, is the release from anger. I was a rager and I was raised by ragers, and it was terrifying. I had a terrifying upbringing, constant criticism, lots of anxiety, irritability, depression, a lot of shaming, and it turned out that it was chemically driven. So you can imagine how thrilled I was, and that is why I picked this up as a career 25 years ago.
So it's almost like you became maybe another person or a better version of yourself. But,
gosh, it's just like the witch left and this nice lady came in to take her place. 3 weeks into this, the change was so drastic. I sat down, my children were 11 and 12 years old, and I had this husband, and I sat down with him, and my therapist was helping me figure this out. I said, I'm not going to provide you with these foods anymore. And I will provide you with these foods. So I gave them a list, and I said, please circle all the foods that you like. I got them all those foods. I mean, raspberries and blueberries, and all the people like this food. Roast chicken, everybody likes roast chicken. So it was surprising to me. They didn't put up a fuss at all. It's like, Mom, anything we can do to help you. Because the witch had left.
Right.
And they didn't want that witch to come back. So, Mom, if it's the processed foods, no problem. We will not eat them in the house. We won't bring them in the house. We won't eat them in front of you. We're not going to ask you to pay for them or take us to get them. Because when I figured out about the irritability, I think, okay, great. I'm giving my children foods that make them irritable with me. I think I'll stop doing that.
Right.
And they just excelled. Because once you get out from under these drugs, your brain clears up. You can think really clearly. You've got full use of your frontal lobe. And they were at school then with no competition. They were the ones with the clear heads, the nice personalities, because they didn't have this, unstable emotions. And they just excelled. They in very competitive years, they went to the schools of their choice. They went to the graduate schools of their choice. They got the jobs of their choice. There's just no competition for them. And because their heads are so clear.
You've seen other people that you've worked with, clients, and maybe people that were in different studies see similar results as well with things like, I think I heard you mention Crohn's disease and leaky
diabetes,
gut.
irritable bowel, heart disease, stroke. Why are so many different diseases, why do they fade away when you come off these processed foods? They're unbelievably destructive. So there's systemic inflammation from processed foods, which means that your heart is inflamed and your brain. Your joints are inflamed. Your muscles are inflamed. And this is why, it's part of the reason why people develop dementia, Alzheimer's. It impacts sleep, because your respiratory pathways are also inflamed. So asthma, a lot of diseases are related to this body-wide inflammation. We think the brain fog might also be part of the inflammation syndrome.
Is it?
You have, sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
there's a second system that's not functioning, and that is the gut, the digestive system. These foods feed toxic microorganisms in the gut, and the gut releases those into the bloodstream. So you have a second source of systemic distress. And then you have unstable blood glucose, which just wreaks havoc on emotions and behavior and energy, and promotes diabetes. And then you have hormone disruption, because the adrenal glands are involved in stabilizing blood glucose. They are activated, the adrenal glands are activated via a pathway in the brain. So that is why we have this really intense sense of anxiety. And then hormones can't be regulated by the adrenal glands. So you have hormone disruption. Well, you have 4 major systems in the brain that are rendered dysfunctional. They're not working. So that's why you get this very long list of seemingly not related diseases, but they're all related to the processed foods. So you can kind of turn the whole medical system upside down and say, rather than trying to treat diabetes and depression or heart disease, just treat the processed food addiction, and all of that stuff will clear up.
But Joan, that's not profitable.
You know, we are, I will tell you, Meredith, I've thought about that, with my business background. We've developed a system where we can train people to create a business out of helping other people get through this, get off the processed foods, and then stay off. Because when you get off the processed foods, the food industry is just waiting there to start bombarding you again, and the addiction will come back. So it's a great skill to learn how to do this, and then how to embed yourself in a community that your brain can copy, that your brain can be safe in conforming to. So there are business opportunities out of this, but you're right. Health plus food in the U.S. domestic economy is 1/3 of the economy.
Wow, that's intense. Is there benefit for just reducing your intake of processed foods, or is it like saying, well, just a little heroin is okay?
Well, the problem with processed food addiction is that there are 2 problems. One, there are so many substances to get off of, and they each have their own withdrawal syndrome. So you want to go very, very slow, and you don't really want to try until you're in that community of healthy people. Because if you try to give them up while you're around people who are still using, or still consuming those processed foods, then the addiction will persuade you that you're being deprived. But if you're around people who are saying, oh, I can't believe my head's so clear, I can think clearly. I thought I was, I thought it was getting old. No, my joints don't hurt anymore. Then that conformance drive, you're never going to feel deprived that your joints don't hurt anymore. It's just the messaging in the environment is going to elevate the joy of being free from these substances. But if you're in a community that's still eating a lot of them, then it's going to feel like deprivation. Nonetheless, you have to go slowly. If you don't do the whole list, then the addiction will just transfer to the next substance. Nonetheless, you will get incredible benefits. So in 1996, we only knew about the sugars and flours. I got off the sugars and flours, and my life changed dramatically. And then over the years, I realized, okay, processed fats, excessive salt, dairy, caffeine, I need to get off of those as well. But it took years. And nonetheless, I was just so much better off just from getting off the sugars and flours.
It kind of set you up to accept that these other ingredients were causing additional problems. And so you were motivated to get rid of those because of the success that you had with the other ones.
Yeah,
I love that you also talked about community first. I had never thought of that. I never thought that when trying to create a new nutritional habit, whatever it would be, that you should first find community around that lifestyle.
Yep.
Instead, I just, pictured me eating sliced peppers while my friends are having, Cheez-Its.
Yes. No, it's shocking how much easier it is if you're in the right community. That conformance drive really does control a lot of our behavior and feeling. And it's really essential to feel like you belong somewhere.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you belong, then your brain is going to really work overtime to get you to feel like you belong.
Gosh,
and that includes eating processed foods. So recently, in the last year or so, in our own services, we've begun to focus on the entire household. So yes, we can provide an online community, but isn't it so much easier if our members' households are joining them? So they belong, so they feel like they belong in their household. You don't have to kind of divide, okay, my household is not my food social circle. My food social circle is over here. My household is some other social circle. No, you don't have to try to do those mental gymnastics.
Right.
So and plus, great, I'm free, but if my household is still using processed foods, I'm going to be in the hospital with them. So there's a lot of benefit to and you're not fighting with your household, you're controlling the messaging in the household and what foods are available. So we're taking that addiction business model and flipping it to our defense. We're fighting fire with fire. We're using the same techniques inside our households to keep our household members safe.
And I think that's what's potentially so effective about that strategy is get rid of the messaging, create community, execute the new habits. I feel that order of operation could apply to a lot of areas.
Yes.
And you're so right about the family aspect of it, because when you are an individual, you make individual choices, obviously, but when your choices are to continue to live in an unhealthy way, whatever that means, ultimately you are burdening your family. And so healthy decisions are unburdening your family member to not have to care for you when your choices have caught up. And I love the empowered approach of getting the whole family involved. So
yeah,
now that we've talked about the positive effects of removing these things from our lives, what are the consequences of continuing down the path of eating what has come to be known the standard American diet?
Hey everyone, just a quick interruption to show gratitude to our sponsors and give you some special deals. So I don't have kids, but I also want to tell you about It's Your Magazine. They're a national family-centered publishing company with free parent magazines. They have parenting advice, events, and inspiration. I'm actually in a networking group with the publisher, and this guy is all about family. You can view a free magazine in cities in Texas, Oregon, Washington, and Florida by checking them out at itsyourmagazine.com. And insect. So I've always felt iffy about pesticides. Then the mosquitoes got so bad, I would get covered in them from walking from my house to the car. I called Insect, and to say I've been impressed is an understatement. When the treatment wasn't quite doing it, the owner actually came to my house. He found the breeding sites, identified the species of mosquito, and adjusted my treatment to that species. That's when I found out he's also a beekeeper, and pollinator issues are always top of mind. So if you're in the Florida Panhandle or Gulf Coast of Alabama, give him a call, ensec.net. Now back to the show.
you miss having a life. The big thing that people are not aware of, it's shocking when you come out from under it, is the brain fog. The brain fog, the depression, and the cravings. That means that you're not really connecting with other people. A lot of time you're looking at somebody and I can just see that they're thinking about food. They're not really able to connect with me, or they have the brain fog or the fatigue or the sleepiness. So you're not having a life. You're not having the life that you're designed to have. And then you do have the pain. You have the physical pain related to inflammation. You're headed towards heart disease, amputations, blindness, kidney failure from diabetes, stroke, paralysis. You're headed towards depression and irritability and anxiety and shame, chemically induced, not related to life. And then you've lost your cognitive powers. So the attention, the learning, decision making, when you're eating those processed foods, you're not making a decision. You're being compelled by the addiction. It's not a choice. People say, oh, why did you make that terrible choice? You didn't make a choice. That choice, those choice neurons were not firing. It was the addiction controlling behavior. So frontal lobe is attention span, learning, decision making, memory, impulse control. And people lose those abilities. The research on this is absolutely rock solid. You eat a lot of processed foods, you have what's called cognitive impairment. And you think you're labeled as slow as a child. Mm-hmm. And you think you're slow. You're not. You're drugged up without your knowledge or agreement. So you're missing life. And then you're putting your family's financial security at stake, because the leading cause of bankruptcy is a health crisis. Yeah. So your insurance, if you get cancer's on that list because of the way sugar not only feeds some cancer cells, but it impairs immune function. You're more likely to die of COVID because your immune function is also impaired. It's a miserable life. Processed foods create a miserable life. And then you're so tired and brain fog that all you can do is watch TV. And then TV is just pulling you down further. Screen addiction, spending addiction, gambling addiction, these are all, you've got to be in the right community to avoid transferring the addiction to shopping addiction or even sex or relationship addiction. Just got to be in a community which recognizes when a compulsion is building and heads it off. There are just very specific things to do for this.
Well, that's a great transition to talk about those specific things, because, I think the listener might think, okay, well, you got a compelling argument there, and they certainly identify with the things that you've talked about. This is very typical of our modern human experience, right? Mm-hmm. But I love the picture that you paint that it doesn't have to be. So what are practical steps that listeners can do to get a little bit closer to that more optimized state of mind and state of body?
I know this probably isn't what you're expecting me to say, but I'm going to say it. It all starts with accepting. It could take some time, it could take years to fully accept this, that it's a severe addiction. And so we are going to build our lives around protecting these highly sensitive, addicted neurons. And it's going to take years to build that lifestyle. And you have to be around people who are practicing that lifestyle. So when you've got, and you don't have to do all of that today. Today, what people can start to think about is what processed foods are in my house. Because when foods are available, it's stimulating. When it's just available, when you know it's there, when you know you could stand up from the TV and go into the kitchen and get it, the buildup of addictive neurotransmitters is happening without your knowledge, without your awareness, without your agreement. It's an automatic response in the brain, because we do have primitive brains. The frontal lobe is only 2% of the brain. The rest of the brain is working on messaging, not logic. So for millions of years, my goodness, if a human found food, they ate it.
Right.
And if food is available, you eat it. And that's the primitive brain. There's food, eat it.
That sounds like Cookie
So-
Monster.
Yeah, it's kind of like just, it's common sense. You know, when you start to think, okay, I still, my brain, 98% of my brain's still working the way it was 3 million years ago, when finding food was the top priority of everybody's lives. Finding food, fighting off predators. But famine was the leading cause of death. So people are very, very food sensitive. And if food was available, they ate it. And they ate it all. And they ate it fast. Before somebody else got it, or before the predator came and got them. So keeping processed foods out of the house. I know people say to me, well, I'm just going to get my car. That robot, the feeling, you know, somebody else is controlling me. I'll just get in the car. It's okay, because you can put a great big sign in your car saying, I am going, you know, these foods will kill me. These foods are killing me. These foods make me sick. And so as you're driving to go get the stuff, your brain, your frontal lobe is being activated by that sign. And you might be able to return control from the addicted brain cells to the frontal lobe and stop. So getting that buffer between you and the store is actually valuable. And you'll just have less cravings in your house, and you'll stop associating your house. Your house will stop becoming a cue or a trigger by association. This is where we eat the processed foods, and I'm alone. So this is where I can eat a lot of them and nobody's going to judge me. And I'm tired. It's at the end of the day. You come home. That's where night eating comes from. So keeping the processed foods out of your house, teaching yourself about processed foods. What is a processed food? We have some resources I can suggest for your audience. Foodaddictionresources.com is a free website with lots of handouts on it. So go and get the list of excluded foods and just start to be aware. Where am I eating these? Just start to study the situation. Where is this happening? And then step 2, where am I being bombarded by either stress or food messaging? Because stress can activate those addicted brain cells. So where am I being exposed to stress? And where am I being exposed to food reminders or food messaging? Once you start to get a feel for the scope of the problem, then you can just gradually start. You know, like we started with sugars and flours. It was a long time before I got dairy out of my life. And we have tons of videos. You're making this beautiful video. Immerse yourself in food addiction education. We've got a Facebook group. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got free stuff. We're releasing a website called processedfoodaddiction.com. The very first thing on that website is a lot of free stuff. All of our free stuff is just laid out where people can find it. So immerse yourself in that messaging and play that messaging in your household so that your household members are also being immersed in it. So you can do this as a group and never let up. Because as soon as you stop listening to recovery messaging and you start listening to mainstream messaging, it'll creep back. So that's why the weight comes back. That's why 99% of people who lose weight regain it. It is not their fault. they're being bombarded with stimulation to gain weight. Of course they're going to gain weight.
I wonder how many people who have started that journey of removing the messaging are without a TV now.
I don't have a TV.
Yeah.
I just bought a new condo in the last couple of months, and that was a condition that they take the TV out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's plenty of stuff on my computer, and I struggle with YouTube addiction.
Oh,
too.
Right.
You know, I have to okay, I'm watching one Mojo. That's it.
I love that you love Mojo. That's so amazing. This has been
I'm watching one, and then I'm going to quit.
This has been such a good, I feel so motivated after talking with you, and I even knew what we were talking about. I knew it was going to happen, and I feel motivated, and I hope that the listener feels motivated and empowered. And you gave such good practical strategies, and I know you said that you had a bonus content that I could include in my email. So tell the listeners about that. So
this is, I started this journey in 1996, made my first abstinent meal January 1st, 1996. In that time, I've earned a PhD, and I've written the textbook for the field. Here it is, Processed Food Addiction. So to celebrate my 25th anniversary, I have put together a presentation describing the top 10 discoveries. So how do I know all this stuff, and why do we now know what works? It's because I read original research, and there's lots of original research because researchers have been looking at obesity and eating disorders and drug addiction with brain imaging technology for now almost 25 years. So we know. I'm not just making this stuff up. Almost everything I say is taken directly from a study. So I have a presentation for your audience. It's the top 10 discoveries in the last 25 years in processed food addiction.
That's awesome.
And it really does show people. It's convincing to see that science, to see there's a study. Oh, this is real. Okay, I can do something about this.
Yes, I love that. This is real. Yeah. And, when you take that and you combine it with the other things we talked about in episode 1 about the tobacco industry and how commercials program, indoctrinate, if you will, our brains, it really does make you go, okay, enough is enough. Let's get our frontal lobes back and move forward. So thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate you so much.
I'll be sure to link all of your website and your resources in the show notes with the description of the podcast, but also in the email. So if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you want to get a bonus that she talked about, the top 10 discoveries in 25 years of research in addictive nutrition, then make sure you text REAL to 66866 the week that this comes out, and then you'll get that email on Saturday. So thanks again, Dr. Joan. I appreciate you
Meredith,
immensely.
Yeah, thanks for covering this.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, you will also like the episode about the free way you can reduce chronic stress. That's episode 64. One last thing, if you have an iPhone, can you do me a quick favor? While you're in the podcast app, scroll down to the review section and just write a quick review letting me know what you like about this show. Thanks so much. Stay curious and grow.